The Xbloom Studio coffee maker might just be one of the most advanced home coffee machines you'll ever encounter. But is it a revolution or just too much for your average coffee lover to handle? We all know the coffee scene is full of gadgets that promise to make our lives easier, but what happens when a product doesn't just simplify things, it complicates them in a really high-tech way? I think that's where the Xbloom Studio comes in here. This isn't your typical coffee maker. This is a fully automated brewing experience designed for those of you who want precision, control, but mainly convenience when it comes to brewing pour-over coffee specifically. The Xbloom has features like the RFID-enabled pods. It has a built-in grinder, a built-in scales, and a water pouring system that mimics manual pour-over techniques. And the Xbloom Studio really does set a bold bar for future coffee tech. But there is something about it that feels before its time. Now, speaking of time, have you checked out our Brew Point loyalty program yet? It's the perfect way to save while you shop, share and engage, and you earn 1 point for every dollar spent, plus extra perks just for being a member. And more points equals bigger discounts on your favorite coffee gear. Join today and start saving. I'll add a link in the description down below. All right. Let's now get back to talking about the Xbloom Studio. Firstly, this machine is packed full of features. The Xbloom Studio can automate everything, from adjusting the grind size, to dosing, to brewing, and all you really need to do is tap the pod on top of the machine and tip the beans into the grinder. And then the rest is hands-free. Now, these pods, these are a unique spin. They're made from biodegradable sugarcane and bamboo, but here's the kicker. They also come with an RFID chip loaded with data, so when you tap it, the machine knows the exact grind size, water temperature, and brew ratio to use, and it adjusts it automatically. And it sounds like magic, but in reality, it's more of a futuristic convenience. I really do like how they bridge the gap of communication between whoever's roasted the coffee beans and whoever's using them with this technology. And for a high-tech machine, it's surprising how it maintains that focus of giving it a manual pour-over feel. That water dispersion system, this is also a clever touch, and it really does help with even extraction of your coffee. But as you may have guessed, that's not all that's going on here, and the process is quietly complex inside the machine. And that's where I feel like the intimidation factor comes in here. The machine is so well designed and so unique, it can cater to the full spectrum of people who drink coffee. From the tap and goes to the I want to control everything in the brewing process. But it doesn't feel like it's attracting any one of those certain people in particular. So then it sits in that middle ground of us really not knowing who this machine is for. And I'll try to answer that throughout this video. But the Xbloom Studio does offer a mix of features that signal some great choices for those of you looking for efficiency and versatility. For instance, the ability to plumb the machine directly into a water source is a huge plus, especially I would say in an office environment where I can really see the Xbloom Studio doing well, as it eliminates the need to refill the tank constantly, and then you can also ensure you're able to provide better water quality over time, which is something that anyone who's brewed a good cup of coffee knows is super important. And also, for those of you who want to experiment and dial in the brewing process, this machine offers the ability to brew with different filter baskets, different filter papers, and it also gives you room to play around and fine-tune recipes in a well-designed app from your smartphone, which is a really nice touch. However, for those of you who are serious about coffee, but you're not into the apps, there is good news. You can now manage everything directly from the menu on the machine. Whereas the previous versions required either an app or an RFID card to brew, but with this version, it is much more plug and play. All right, a quick interruption here, as I was just talking about the studio and I really just want to make some coffee because I want you guys to see how you make coffee with the Xbloom Studio, and then we can get back to the rest of the video. Few ways you can make coffee, so we're going to try it 2 different ways at least. I got pods in one, and we'll use the pod for it because that's what it's for. It has the coffee in there, but you also brew through this thing. This is essentially the filter as well, and then you can use your own brewer. So I'm interested to see how that works as well. So let's just begin, shall we? I'll load it up. always important. Make sure you put your glass down first. I've made that mistake once already. I've got the Xbloom card here. Tap your card to enter the 3 different recipe. So there we go. Something's worked on the front of the screen there. You've got water temperature and ratio. Might just put my coffee in first. Goes into your grinder. There's like a little paper filter in here. It's interesting. That's cool. So we're going to go grind size. Now, it can grind for espresso. It has like a grind chart up here, which is fantastic. It goes all the way fine and all the way coarse. We're doing pour over, so I believe 50 sounds good to me. Check. Brew ratio. A long one or a short one? Let's go pretty standard, 16.5. Oh, there we go. Oh, you can get the aromas too coming out of the grinder. That's magic. Oh, look at that. Starting to brew. Oh, a little bit of a shake. So I wonder if that's... No, that's not the feedback there. That must be coming from somewhere else then. It really gets to the outside of the basket quite well. It has good access to the whole filter. All the coffee looks saturated. We're up to 2 minutes. I wonder if it knows when to stop. Oh my goodness. That literally stopped right where I needed it to. That was like 240 mils perfectly. That was amazing. That was hairy, but it was amazing. It stopped perfectly. Look at that. That's cool. There's a drip tray there as well. I'm not too worried. Let me clean that out because I'm going to do my next brew. How's this? There's hardly any drips coming from this. There you go. Keep that to the side. Whoops. All right, let's see if this one works. I might need some more water actually. Now I've got 17 grams of filter coffee here. We won't need this anymore. So you can use this brewer with that's included with their paper filters, but I want to use my brewer. I've seen people using their own brewers. I mean, like it has espresso, AeroPress filter, I guess because you can use the grinder kind of by itself as well. You don't have to use the grinder with the brewer. You can just have a standalone grinder, which is kind of cool. But I just want to see if this would work like this. And the way we would do that is we're going to grind. This is their dosing cup. So they have a dosing cup that's magnetic. So we'll tap this again. Well, no, we won't. We'll just control it. So we'll just control at the front by ourselves. We'll put the beans in first. There we go. Grind size. Oh yeah. RPMs, you control the RPM of the grinder as well. Since it's a conical grinder, I reckon slower is better. There we go. That's hot. Cool, so it's done that for us. So essentially you could use these for anything. If you had a different brewer that you wanted to not use the machine for, then you could just grind like that. But I'm gonna add these in. I'm using the Xbloom. If you all want to know, the Xbloom is my favorite pour over of all time. Water temperature. Let's go 93. Style. There we go. And then we choose our style, how we want it to pour. Let's go. So we've got water temperature and we've got styles of how it should pour. I'm going to go with circle. At 93, then you can start. So I'm actually adjusting it as I go as well. Kind of as if I see it needs a little bit more attention around the outsides, I'll change the... There we go. Stops the pour again. So I do feel like I have like full control over this by just pushing 3 buttons. It's kind of crazy. So I can adjust the different way of it pouring. I can adjust the temperature whilst it's pouring. I better stop soon. Yeah, like I've done a lot of things there. I mean, it wasn't obvious to me the exact profile that I was using. There was no like pre-infusion, so to speak, but I could push buttons to create a pre-infusion. I could push buttons to change the pouring style mid-brew. I could push the buttons to change the temperature mid-brew, which is pretty cool, which is really cool. And I'm guessing if I just kind of like remove everything, we'll just see how long this pours for. There we go. That was good though. Oh, it's gonna be hot. Let's try it out. Oh, so it stops at 250 mils. That's good. I was wondering when it was going to stop. This one was 240. This one was 250. This is good because it had more coffee in it. It's decent. I'm happy with those two. I mean, they're not fantastic. They're not blowing my mind, but that was fairly easy to brew some coffee though. Pushing a few buttons. Let's get back to the video, shall we? Let's now talk size. I think the Xbloom Studio, I find, might be a bit tall, but its depth and width is quite nice. It's still large, essentially for a single cup server, but I think the size is just right for a compact setup without sacrificing too much space on functionality. So who's the Xbloom Studio really for? Because I feel like I'm sitting on the fence with this one. This machine is for those of you who want convenience without sacrificing on quality. And that does also sound like a marketing term, but I think if you love precision, but you do also want something that requires minimal hands-on effort, you'll appreciate the seamless grind, dose, and brew process from the Studio Xbloom. But this isn't just for beginners. This is for more advanced users as well, with that ability to control grind settings, water flow, and brewing ratios manually. This offers a pretty solid experience. That said, it's not perfect. The setup can be a little bit frustrating at times, with default settings or modes that are somewhat convoluted, especially going through the menu, but not so much on the app. It is easy to feel like you're just trying to catch up to the machine. And for someone who enjoys the tactile satisfaction of a manual brew, this can feel like a step backwards. But let's talk about the visual and the tactile experience of this machine. The Xbloom Studio looks sleek. It's almost architectural and it feels premium in its own way. Whilst the plastic build might not have the same luxury feel as metal, there is metal knobs and a pod holding ring that feel solid and have a nice tactile finish. And then the coffee, let's not forget about why we're here. Despite all the noise and complexity that I talk about, the Xbloom does brew some solid coffee. It can deliver a great cup of filter coffee with minimal effort, and the consistency is there from the first pod to the last. Freshness is clear, and whilst it's not quite a manual pour over, it's pretty damn close. The machine offers a lot of flexibility, but with that comes a steep barrier to entry, mainly the price. And whether you're using RFID pods or manually tweaking the settings, I feel like you're going to need some time to really get comfortable with how the Xbloom Studio works. And let's be honest, it's not always an enjoyable experience, especially when I compare it to the satisfaction of brewing my coffee by hand. So is the Xbloom Studio a game changer? Maybe, but not right now. It's an interesting product that feels like it's bridging that gap between high-tech automation and traditional manually brewing. And it is pushing the boundaries. It is clear that this machine has a lot of potential to evolve. With more access to coffee pods that work seamlessly with this machine, the Xbloom Studio could become something more than what I see as this niche product. It could become the future of home brewing. But for now, I see it still trying to find its place. So is the Xbloom Studio right for you? If you're ready to embrace something different, with all its quirks, you may just find this a worthy addition to your coffee journey. But if you're looking for simplicity and no fuss brewing, you might want to wait a little bit longer. I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? Is the future of coffee automation in the home worth the challenge? Let me know in the comments section down below and we'll keep that conversation going. And thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. See you in the next one.